Welcome to Spring Hill's After the Fire. Being a firefighter is not just a job, it's living the dream. But doing what we love comes at a price. Meet the men and women just like us who have sacrificed so much with pride, honor, and integrity to help the helpless in their darkest hour. And join us as we learn how to fight the battles of life together after the fire. Together, we will be victorious.
All right, welcome back to Spring Hill's After the Fire. This is episode number 2. I hope you enjoyed episode number 1. Today, I'm here with Danny Cupples. Danny, appreciate you coming and joining us.
Glad to be here. Glad to be a part of this.
Yeah, I've known Danny for over 20 years now. We've worked together off and on in those 20 years. And I'm going to let Danny tell a little bit about himself.
Well, I'm Danny Cupples. I've been a first responder for over 31 years. I've started out in a county south of here. I work now for Williamson Medical Center. I'm a critical care paramedic, and I've been in the first responder field for about 31 years.
Well, that's a long time.
It is.
Seen a few changes over 31 years?
A lot of changes.
Yeah.
It seems like every year there's something different.
Right.
Especially over the last year.
Yeah.
You know, with the COVID and everything else, it just changed everything.
Yeah, wow, what a dramatic impact that's had on all of
on
us.
everybody.
Well, today I brought you here to talk about a specific incident,
Okay.
and we're not going to name the incident by any means, but I want to learn a little bit about September 2006, I believe it was, and you had a report. You responded to a report of a fire/explosion at a chemical plant. So it was a commercial situation, and they had injuries. And my understanding is you didn't know how many injuries were involved. Right. So as a supervisor, you were responding to this along with other companies from other agencies.
Right.
You mind telling us a little bit about that? I don't.
It's a day that I'll always remember for probably the rest of my life. That early morning, we'd get a call of a chemical plant explosion with injuries. That's kind of all we get. You know, so everybody's on the move. Me as a supervisor, I'm following the actual fire department. And I'm leading the EMS crew that's coming in, so we're all responding to this chemical plant. Now, we've done pre-planning at chemical plants before because of the possibility of a catastrophic event at these sites. So we've trained, okay, what if something happens, we do this, we follow these guidelines. So we've been through this. So we're expecting, when we get there, to be led into the proper area. That's part of our training. So when we do pull up to this plant, we meet one of the employees, and they are just flagging us in, flagging us, come on through. Gates are open, come on in. They follow us actually right into the hot zone, which all of my training in hazmat's always been, you know, you have a hot zone and a cold zone and, you know, safe zones. And we went right into what we're trained not to do. We went right into the hot zone.
But you didn't know it.
Unnormally.
Yeah.
So we get there to find one patient who is a contractor at this plant that was cleaning a tank full of, it had carbon disulfide in it. And it was so flammable that during the cleaning, he shined his light inside the tank, in which caused the explosion. So with the explosion, you know, he's got several burns. And that's one of the reasons why I think the employee flagged us on in is because of his significant injuries. So they were really excited, you know, they just brought us, we went right into him. He's really burnt, man. We're EMS, we're looking at it, and the fire department's doing their thing. And it wasn't long into it that one of the firemen come up and said, hey, we've got some bad readings on our monitors. They're picking up something bad. We need to get out of here. So we followed their guidance, man. We went in, we got our patient, loaded him up, put him on cot, we got out of there. We got out of the scene. This guy was bad enough that we had to fly him. We had to use air support to get him out of there.
So at this point, you've got probably an engine company. I'm guessing maybe a battalion chief or some type of supervisor from the fire department on scene. They've set up a command post because that's what we do.
Right.
And was there any police officers on the scene?
There was police officers on the scene that came about the same time we did.
Okay.
And as far as who in the fire department, I can't really remember. I knew they had hazmat there, but at that point, by the time they got there, it we were wrapping up and getting out of there.
So
we didn't
y'all-
know what we were breathing in at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in all, but you have several responders on the scene at this point, and the majority of them are in this hot zone, and now everybody's packing up and moving back to a
Right.
cold zone.
Cold zone and getting out of there.
Okay. all
We
right.
did what we were trained to do at that point. We were, when we found out there was something there, we got out of there. There was 3 of us in EMS, and I'm not sure how many firefighters, but one of EMS guys come to me later and said, "Hey, I'm having some breathing issues. Can I get checked out?" And I said, "Certainly you can." So we got him out, went through the process, got him seen, and they were checking him out. And I started having a little bit of the same issues that he did, and so did the other EMS guy. We reported this to the fire department, and their guys, some of them were having issues. By the end of that day, 9 first responders were admitted to the hospital overnight.
Wow.
The hospital that we were in, and even surrounding hospitals, has never dealt with an exposure of carbon disulfide and did not know. They can only know what the MSD has said on the about that chemical, and then it could have anything. It can go from minor stuff to deadly. Who knew? It just depends on how much you breathed in. So we didn't know. We were treated, all released the next morning. But all in all, nine first responders were admitted to the hospital.
And at that point, no serious complications.
No serious. It's just all minor stuff. It's just a couple of some wheezing, and that's about it. That's
Okay.
about it.
So let's go back to the patient that was transported. Blast injuries, inhalation injuries,
Primarily burns.
burns. Okay.
He had a flashover from the fire. It was more of a flashover than a true explosion.
I got you.
So it was more of a flash over fire. When he shined the light in, the fire came out and engulfed him.
Okay.
So he was more burns than he was any kind of blunt injuries, more burns.
I'm thinking about air transport, air medical. Did they have to decon once they figured out what was going on? Did they go back and decon? Did they have any problems?
They did not.
Okay.
Later, of course, they didn't know anyway. At the first time, we didn't know at first.
Oh, okay.
We started finding out more as this day ended.
Because of the time frame,
Because of the
24
time
hours
frame.
later.
Right.
I got you.
And as far as I know, the air crew didn't have any breathing issues.
Okay.
It was only the ones who were inside that hot zone. Inside the hot
So
zone.
y'all were actually in the product.
We were inside the product, 100%.
So you take care of the patient, and unfortunately the patient succumbed to his injuries. But and I don't know if that was that night or the next day.
It was that night. He
night,
died
okay.
that night, later on.
And then you've got nine rescue employees that have been transported, kept in the hospital overnight, and then the next day they're released. So you all go home and start going about your life.
Right.
But then what happens?
Then what? Then it got worse. What happened later, as time went on, we followed the book of what we're supposed to do with workers' comp. Our guys did, and me as well. I did too. My breathing got worse as it went along, so I continued, and so did the other guys. Today, 2 of 3 EMS guys are no longer in the EMS. Their breathing got so bad. I know one of them didn't. One of them failed to be compliant, and he's not in the EMS anymore.
Okay, when you say compliant, do you mean for workman's comp?
For workers' comp,
Okay,
primarily, and that's following the rules of what workers' comp says. You
First
go to the doctor,
report.
go to the doctor, first report.
so yeah,
Just follow along with what they say do.
very important.
It's very important to do. You got to do that, regardless of peer pressure. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but that was a problem with one of the other departments that were there. I think was peer pressure, and some of them didn't follow through with it.
Yeah.
And I know
So-
today they're still having some problems.
Maybe that mentality of throw some dirt on it and get back in the game.
Exactly, and I've been there.
Sure, I think we all have.
I've been there too, but it's important not to do that. One, it's important not to go into the hot zone. Secondly, you did, so now it's important to be compliant. For me, and I'm talking about me today, as the years went on, I have continued, and it's 15 years into it, and I am still under workers' comp care. What it did to me, what that chemical did to me, was to cause me to be an adult asthmatic. It's called occupational asthma. It's what their definition of it is. It's went from never had asthma before to now you're a full-blown asthmatic.
So you never had athletic-induced asthma?
Never, ever.
Never had any breathing problems
Never
at all?
had breathing problems. And I'll tell you how bad it got for
Wow.
me. It went from a little wheeze to twice I had to be transported by ambulance and almost intubated the first time EMS came to my house.
Okay, stop right there. Because I just heard it in your voice. There's just a little bit of that wheeze sound.
I still got it.
You didn't have that before the incident.
Never did.
And it's not that bad today. Is that because of your medication? Because there's some days when we talk, and I don't mean you to take this away, please don't. But there's some days when I'm talking with you on the phone, I can't hardly understand you because of that sound. Yeah.
I hear that a lot. And
it's almost a whistle sound.
And I don't hear it. Sometimes I don't hear it. Sometimes I do. If I hear it, I know it's bad.
So if you're taking your medicine.
I carry an inhaler with me everywhere I go, just like an asthmatic does.
Yeah.
But it got so bad that I had to be transported twice. Once in Florida and once up here. And it was a true severe asthma attack. During this treatment at this, I'm not going to mention what hospital it is, but there's a certain drug that I have to take that actually changed my life. But without being under workers' comp care, I couldn't afford it. There's no way, because that one medicine that I take costs like $8,400 for one sub-Q injection that has to be done at an injection center, and you have to have it once a month for the rest of my life, and that's every month from now on. But it's changed my life. It's made it to where I can work. I can go to work now, but I have to have that shot once a month.
So
there's no way. I don't know anybody can afford that.
Oh man, I can't even imagine the financial impact that would make. And also, if you couldn't take that medicine, and there's no way of knowing, but guesstimation.
Right.
What do you think your life would be like if you didn't have that medicine? You say it changed your life.
I don't know if I'll even be alive. I'll be honest with you. That's how bad of attacks that I've had, and without it, I don't know. I really can't tell you. I know it would not be good. But looking back, to that scene that day, and I'll always remember that day, and to think back, what could we have done differently? And I prior to that, just like fire department, and I worked in construction before EMS, and I work around hazmat, and I have lots of hazmat training, and always in all the training, it boils down to safety. It boils down to don't just run into a cloud of dust. Don't run into it. You've got to follow your guidelines. You've got to do it. And that's what all that training's about. And we trusted someone else to think it was safe instead of slowing down a little bit. Slow down before we went in. If we would have just done what we're told, what we were trained to do, everything would have been fine. It really would have.
Every hazmat class I've been to, if you don't know, don't go.
If you don't know, don't go.
And slow down.
Yeah.
And I'm putting myself in your shoes, just trying to. I wasn't there, but I put myself in your shoes, and I think, man, you got this guy that's waving you in, and he's super excited. His adrenaline's through the roof.
Right.
He's waving you in frantically, I'm supposing. Mm-hmm. It's hard not to follow somebody like that, but it would have paid off to do just that.
It would have, if we would have done what we were trained to do. If we would have followed our training. Getting in there quicker with his severity of injuries, he would have died anyway. I'm certain of that. But it's about our safety. I've learned from that scene.
Sure.
I've worked many calls after that, and it's helped me. It's helped me do better. It's helped me respond better. It's helped me as a manager. I was a manager for over 20 years, and it helped me be a better manager to help make our employees safer.
But that's a huge price to pay.
It's a huge price to pay, yeah.
We haven't always trained to put ourselves first.
Right.
At 31 years ago, I know I come in a little less than that, just a little, about 23 years. Then I was hearing, it's not them first anymore, it's us first, our partners next, and then whoever's in trouble.
Right.
Was there a time that you were trained differently? Was there a time that the mentality, maybe you weren't trained differently, but maybe the mentality was different?
The mentality definitely. Early on, the mentality, it's so different. From the day, we talked about earlier about training, how training has become different every year, and then, especially that far back. I mean, it's so much, and we learn from scenes, unfortunately, being the guinea pig of an incident to probably help the next scene, help save somebody else on the next scene. And that's the way it's been in my career that I've seen. And unfortunately, I was part of an incident that helped change the way we respond.
That's kind of why I named this series Spring Hills After the Fire. It's after the incident. I could have called it After the Incident, but that doesn't sound as cool to me.
Right, after the fire.
But it is after the incident where you can look back. Hindsight's 20/20. You look back and you glean from those mistakes precious life-saving actions and reactions, things of that nature. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's at a terrible cost. But luckily, none of our responders died from the incident. I would like to know, just off the top of your head, as far as EMS is concerned, were all the people that were with you, were you all around the same amount of time in service, same age?
We actually, yes, within probably 5 years of each other.
So y'all were all on the same page.
All
your training was
no, there was no
cultural gap.
No, none at all. I mean, we all just followed right into it, man. We went right into the hot zone and did what we did, and made a mistake. And we shouldn't have done that, but we did.
So the reason I asked that is thinking about the compliance thought that you brought up. One person wasn't compliant with the guidelines as far as following up with an on-the-job injury.
Right.
What made you different? What do you think in your career taught you better and taught you to take that so seriously?
I think what really helped me is my position. Okay.
Being a supervisor.
Being a manager, being a supervisor, and knowing that was the right thing to do versus being non-supervisor, being an employee, and with peer pressure, because you have that so much. I've been through it. I've been there. Oh, you're not hurt. Go ahead and go back to work. Peer pressure keeps you from doing that, and I know I saw it. But I think that's why I did it mainly. And maybe if I was on the other side, I may have done it different. I don't know. But I know it's the right thing to do is be compliant. And it's there for a reason. There's a process for a reason. And I've seen it through my lifetime over the last 15 years from this incident. I probably wouldn't be alive today if I hadn't been compliant.
So as managers, as supervisors, as training officers, I'm listening to your story and I see that you all had the same hazmat training, but yet you still failed a little bit on the front end. But you came back out of that because when more people arrived and more machinery arrived, you were able to overcome that failure a little bit. But ultimately it did affect you. However, on the workman's comp side, only the manager passed the test. So I'm thinking, as a training officer, as supervisors, we're failing our people. I think we train a lot on those hazmat calls, fire calls, wreck scenes, and all those things because those are the meat and potatoes of our job. But when you get hired at a department, no matter what the department is and what level of care it is, you usually only train on that workman's comp thing one time unless you actually go through it.
Right.
And other than that, you never hear about it.
Never hear about it unless you need it. And some people never need it.
Right.
But and then some do. But you're right. Do that one time in the beginning. But that's something maybe as managers we need to think about.
Sure.
Be sure that they know to do it. There's a process. There's a reason behind it. And hey, I'm proof that it works. And then without being compliant, it definitely changed my life.
Is it HR's responsibility to call you and say, hey, I heard y'all had a bad scene? You know, were there any injuries? Do we need to report anything?
No, they don't know anything about it until you report it. There is a process with an incident report, a stage. You get sent, just like on a on-duty accident. You know, you got to go through the process. You've got to go get checked at the ER. You got to go through the drug screen on every one of them. And there's no difference from that major scene than a fall and twisted ankle scene. You still got to go through that process. That's how workers' comp gets involved with it, because you do it up front.
So what happens if you don't turn it in?
Well, then something happens, it's on you.
It's on you. So I would say good advice is, if you're injured, no matter how slight you think it is, because you didn't know. You didn't know. You could have brushed this off and said, I'll probably just inhale a little bit of it. Hey, you go and sit around a campfire long enough, you're going to have a little scratchy throat the next morning. But you didn't know what was going to happen. For some reason, you reported it, and the other guys maybe not have the way they should have. And man, I can't imagine.
Right, especially like a scene like this. Well, we're trained about these things all the time, right? Like I said earlier, we're trained. If something major happens, an explosion, you respond this way. But really, we see it in California with the fires, with New York, with the towers. Well, we don't think it's going to happen here. It's not going to happen right here in our home backyard. It's not going to do it. It does. It did. That proved to us that day that it can and it will happen. It's just a matter of time. So you've got to be prepared. You've got to be ready. You've got to treat every one of them the same way. And that's because it saves us. That's what we train for, not to run into the hot zone. And it does happen right here in our own backyard.
It's not always mass casualty.
No.
It's not always
one person. Unfortunately, that one person died, and it was not a first responder, but it was one person. That's why we train. That's why we're supposed to do this. If you don't, it's affected my life. It'll affect my life from now on. I'll always have to have this medicine out there for asthma.
It affected your life. What impact did it have on your family?
A huge impact.
That's something we haven't talked about.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. And it affects your family. Your family has to adapt to your major change, your major health change. And with asthma, my wife's told me, she said, you scared me to death, sir. It was used to me being the one to help take care of things, because I'm a paramedic, but I was the paramedic that needed help. So she said she was so scared. She called 911, got an ambulance over there to help. And this has happened on multiple occasions. Still, when it's your family, it just changes everything. Yeah. And it's changed my family's life, because they're adapting to my change, my health change.
Going back, when things really started getting bad for you health-wise, did you have any ideas of what you was going to do if you couldn't come back to EMS?
I didn't have a clue, man. I didn't have a clue. When I was used to, prior to this, my life was like playing softball. I love sports. I love hunting. Love fishing. I love getting outside. I'm not an indoors person. I'm an outdoors person. If I'm off, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that actually took a halt.
Yeah.
My softball playing just pretty much ended. I used to love riding bikes. I was on a bike team, medical bike team for a while, and I loved riding bikes. Rode 30, 40 miles a day. I loved doing it, and it just put a halt on all that. Changed my life completely.
Wow.
Completely. Now, over the last probably 8 or 9 years, I'm beginning to do things more because of the medicines I'm taking. It's making me have more of a normal lifestyle. But I still have to take it. It's still changed my life.
Wow. Yeah, I was just thinking about how so many of us are fire, EMS, or police, and that's it. We really haven't prepared to do something
backup plan,
kind of pigeonholed into our careers. Right. And if something happens, we're in bad shape.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's a lot to think about. Mm-hmm. Well, Danny, I want to thank you for coming. I appreciate you on the spur of the moment, taking the time out to come and spend an hour or so with me, and helping our guys out. I think they will appreciate this. I know a lot of the guys know you already. And, I appreciate all of you folks watching our segment here on Spring Hill's After the Fire, Episode 2.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for watching the video today. I hope you've enjoyed this training. I hope it's been very beneficial to you. I want to thank Danny Cupples for joining us and helping us with this. Also, Lori Lazinski for helping us put the video together. I do have some points for you to ponder. Number one, sometimes it pays to slow down. I hope you took that away from this video as you listened to Danny tell his story of this incident that he was involved with. Sometimes it pays to slow down. Number two, safety is everybody's business. We are all responsible for ourselves and also for each other. And then number three, please report all injuries. In regards to that, I am embedding in this training platform all of our accident reporting forms. I'd like to make sure everybody has access to those in case you do get hurt at work and you want to know how to handle that. You'll be able to pull that up on Target Solutions. So remember, reporting work-related accidents or injuries, report them immediately. Any work-related accident or injury, report that to your supervisor and or department head, even if medical treatment is not necessary. A first report work of injury or illness form is required to be completed by state regulation. Forms should also be readily available within your department. That's why I'm putting it in the training platform. HR is available to assist with the completion of your paperwork. Employee and supervisor must report the accident/injury to the HR department within 24 hours. The HR department will report the accident/injury to public entity partners. That's the city's insurance carrier, and they'll do that within 24 hours. So please, guys, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And I hope to see you again real soon. Thank you.